Heroes Like Us is a series intended at sharing comic book characters from various backgrounds and identities. We won't always get everything right, so feel free to make amendments and corrections in the comments. They're always appreciated. What's not appreciated, however, is any form of hate speech or intolerance, so comments of that nature will be immediately deleted and those users blocked from this channel. This is a place of education and celebration. Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic, and welcome to Heroes Like Us, our video series where we take a look at certain identities and we talk about comic book characters that have those identities. So today we're doing our third video about comic book lesbian characters. Now we have two other ones, and then we have a bunch of other LGBT themed videos. So at the very end of this, we're going to point you to that playlist, but you don't need to watch them in any order. So right now we're just going to dive right in. Now we're going to start this list with a shout out for an upcoming book called The Margins, which I had a chance to review, so you can check out that entire video if you're more curious about it. But the book focuses on a character named Charley, and she is an artist in Portland, Oregon, who is working on a book that is kind of a fantasy setting, and the book starts to kind of come into their lives, and they go into the lives of the book, and it's this really interesting story that's kind of this fantastical adventure, but also about the process of creating a graphic novel. Now, Charley is the main character, but we also have a lot of time with Rita, who's her girlfriend and kind of the one who encourages her in this endeavor and eventually joins her on this adventure. So Charley and Rita from The Margins, you can head down to the description if you want to either pre-order The Margins, or by the time you watch this, it might be out. So if you're interested in The Margins, head down to the comments. Now, our first major character for this list is Sarah Rainmaker, who started as a Wildstorm character and then became a DC Comics character. So Sarah Rainmaker basically is a metahuman. She's part Apache. She has the ability to control the weather and rain, and that allows her to fly. She can do a bunch of that stuff. She served on the team Gen 13 for a long time, where she tried to start a relationship with kind of the most familiar character, probably from Gen 13, and that's Caitlin Fairchild. But those advances were rejected. So then Sarah Rainmaker eventually found, kind of now in her DC Comics time, she found a group called The Movement, where she now is in a relationship with a character called Virtue. So let's talk about Virtue. Holly Ann Fields from DC Comics. Now, as the leader of this group called The Movement, Virtue is able to tap into people's emotions, so she can kind of sense how they're feeling, and then she can even do things like project fear, kind of use their emotions against them. She can also fly by like riding these heightened emotions. It's very kind of confusing, but emotions are the source of all of these powers that she has. Some of Virtue's first arcs revolved around her living in Detroit and trying to find the police officer that killed her father. But her father basically committed suicide by cop, but she wants to get to the bottom of what really happened. Up next from Marvel Comics, we've got the character known as Sunfire, Mariko Yoshida. Now, Mariko is from an alternate Earth. So basically another version of our reality, where she is raised in this very kind of traditional Japanese household. So she is kind of shunned and rejected because of, one, her mutant abilities, basically to control heat and fire, but also her sexual orientation. So those two factors caused her to leave her family and join Xavier's team of mutants. Now, eventually, Sunfire joins what are called the Exiles, which are heroes from different realities that come together to help kind of solve reality-breaking problems. So there's something out there that's happening that's destroying realities and affecting, she's out there fixing these problems to get things back on track. Now, in one of these realities, she fell in love with Mary Jane Watson, who in the 616 reality falls in love with Spider-Man. But in that reality, she is the one that gets the power, so she is Spider-Woman. So Mariko and Spider-Woman have a bit of a romance, but eventually the Exiles have to leave. Sunfire eventually dies and kind of gives her life to protect a bunch of people, but her body is buried in the reality with Mary Jane, so that Mary Jane can kind of honor her and visit her grave there. Very sad, tragic ending to that story. Up next from DC Comics, we've got the character known as Scandal Savage, who is the daughter of the immortal villain, Vandal Savage. So Scandal serves on a team called the Secret Six, and she's basically this villain, this morally gray character, but often might have to do something heroic, kind of like a Suicide Squad sort of thing. She falls in love with another member of the Secret Six called Knockout, who is basically a warrior from the planet Apocalypse. But this is where things get weird. Knockout is killed. So Scandal falls in love with a doppelganger of Knockout called Liana, but then Knockout comes back to life. And so now Scandal is kind of in love with both of them and eventually proposes and marries both of them in this kind of polygamous three-way kind of situation. So she's married to both of them. Up next from Marvel Comics, we've got the character Moondragon, whose real name is Heather Douglas. Now, in the comics, Moondragon is the daughter of... Okay, let me start this again. Drax the Destroyer, right? So Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, in the comic books is just a normal guy who is killed by Thanos. So when Thanos kills Arthur Douglas, Drax, the daughter survives. But the daughter is then brought to Thanos' homeworld, Titan, where she is raised as a warrior. Now, Drax goes on to be kind of reanimated as Drax the Destroyer, but that's a whole other thing. So Heather Douglas grows up to become Moondragon, and she takes that name because she becomes the host to this being called the Dragon of the Moon, which is this incredibly powerful being. So she takes on that name. Now, she also gets powers, and it's a little confusing here whether the powers are because of the Dragon of the Moon, because she later purges that being and she still has powers, but she's not a mutant to the best of my ability. So she's this interesting thing where she kind of evolves and gets abilities without the X gene. Comic books, I don't know. So Moondragon eventually becomes an incredibly powerful telepath, and she can read minds, control minds, and is said to be even more powerful than any mutant. That, you know, Jean Grey without the Phoenix, Emma Frost, Xavier, they have not done as much as Moondragon has been able to do. For example, there was an entire planet that was fighting, and she pacified all of them, so an entire planet she put to peace. So she's done some incredible stuff like that. Now, Moondragon is often in a relationship with another cosmic entity called Phyla-Vell. Now, let me tell you about her. Phyla-Vell from Marvel Comics. Now, Phyla-Vell is an interesting character in that her brother was one of the past Captain Marvels, this incredibly powerful cosmic entity that destroyed reality just to rebuild it. When he rebuilt reality, he changed a couple things, which now caused her to exist. So she didn't really grow up. She kind of just came to being as an adult because now the timeline included her. She has a lot of cosmic abilities. She's an incredible fighter. She has a lot of cosmic artifacts that she'll use. So like the quantum bands, she can kind of summon weaponry out of different, bands and artifacts that she has. Her stories are very confusing, so I'm not going to summarize them here. But you can look up some of her stories to find, there's some that are like time travel and reality hopping and facing off against, ancient beings and going to hell and resurrecting people. And she does a lot of crazy things that often intertwine with Guardians of the Galaxy and other cosmic teams. So if you're interested in Phyla-Vell or Moondragon, there's a lot of stories out there for you to find about them. So that is it for this video. We covered a lot. I'm continually learning more. So if there are really any LGBT characters that you haven't seen talked about here, always let me know, because I'm keeping I have an Excel sheet that includes right now over hundreds. There's like 250 something characters. So you can let me know and be like, hey, don't forget this person, so that when I do my next video, I make sure to include them. So let me know, down in the comments who I haven't talked about yet. If you haven't seen the other videos, check out our entire LGBT playlist right here, and you can start from the beginning. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. See you soon.